One of the most risky methods governments use to solve economic problems or close budget deficits is printing money without real backing. Under normal conditions, the value of a currency should be supported by a country's production capacity and economic strength. However, when new money is continuously injected into the market without genuine production growth or reserves such as gold, the amount of money in the system is artificially increased. This directly disrupts the supply-demand balance. If the quantity of goods and services in an economy remains constant, while the money supply increases, more money begins chasing the same products. As a result, money loses its scarcity, and its purchasing power rapidly declines. Even though people may hold more money numerically, prices rise faster, leading to a higher cost of living and the erosion of savings. An increase in wages does not always mean an increase in prosperity. When governments expand the money supply or during periods of high inflation, wage increases may appear positive on paper. However, what truly matters is not how much money you have, but how much goods and services that money can buy. Inflation, the rate at which prices of goods and services rise, often moves faster than wage growth. For example, if your salary increases by 50%, while the prices of essential goods rise by 70%, your income may increase numerically, but your purchasing power actually declines. This leads to a situation where people earn more money yet can afford fewer goods than before, meaning they become poorer in real terms. As long as inflation outpaces income growth, wage increases merely attempt to compensate for past losses and fail to create genuine prosperity. The most tangible areas where economic imbalance is felt are basic necessities such as housing, food, and energy. When general price levels rise faster than incomes, living standards inevitably decline. Rents increase when housing supply fails to meet demand, or when real estate becomes excessively valued as an investment asset. Similarly, global energy crises and currency fluctuations drive up electricity, natural gas, and fuel prices. On the food side, rising production and logistics costs are directly reflected in higher prices on supermarket shelves. As these essential expenses rise rapidly, while incomes remain stagnant or grow below inflation, disposable income shrinks. Costs that once consumed only a small portion of income gradually devour the entire budget. This creates a vicious cycle in which people cut back on social life, education, and savings, focusing solely on survival. Central banks, as the highest decision-making authorities in economic systems, determine the flow and quantity of money through interest rate decisions. This mechanism is one of the most powerful tools limiting individuals' control over their financial destiny. When central banks raise interest rates, borrowing costs increase. Money is pulled out of circulation and directed toward savings, and economic activity slows. When rates are lowered, cheap money floods the market, stimulating spending but often fueling inflation. For individuals, this represents a top-down intervention beyond their personal financial planning. No matter how carefully someone plans, a single interest rate decision can change mortgage payments, erode the real value of savings, or reduce job opportunities. While the price and accessibility of money are managed by massive institutions, individuals have little choice but to adapt to the resulting fluctuations. Money held in banks gradually melts away over time, even if its numerical amount remains the same. Many people believe keeping money in a bank is safe, but in an inflationary economy, Holding cash means silently losing purchasing power. The main reason is that interest rates on deposits often lag behind real inflation. For example, if a bank offers 30% annual interest while the cost of living rises by 50%, your balance may appear larger on paper, but the amount of goods you can buy actually decreases. This causes savers to lose the value of their labor to the market. Due to the widening gap between interest and inflation, the value individuals work hard to accumulate quietly flows back into the system. As a result, keeping money as cash in a bank ceases to be an investment and becomes a guaranteed process of value loss. In a system where control does not belong to individuals, savings are not preserved but steadily eroded. The modern economic system is built not on value creation, but on debt. Most of the money in circulation today is created through bank loans, that is, through borrowing. This structure requires constant new debt for economic growth to continue. When a system is built on debt, total debt always exceeds the total money supply, because interest is added to the principal. To sustain this cycle, more money must continuously be injected into the market. However, as money supply expands uncontrollably through borrowing, the value of each unit of currency weakens. As debt levels rise, purchasing power falls, forcing individuals to borrow more just to maintain the same standard of living. This vicious cycle transforms money from a medium of exchange into a debt spiral that destroys its own value as it expands. Global crises have become the main justification for money printing in modern economic management. During extraordinary periods, such as pandemics, wars, or energy crises, governments inject massive liquidity into markets to prevent collapse and finance public spending. The panic created by crises legitimizes money printing under the name of stimulus or rescue packages. However, the money injected during crises is rarely withdrawn afterward, and instead becomes a permanent source of inflation. While wars and energy crises disrupt supply chains and push prices higher, every new banknote printed to subsidize these costs further devalues money. As a result, an endless cycle of crises creates a permanent environment in which money continuously loses value. Each new global shock acts as a catalyst for increased debt and further erosion of purchasing power. The erosion of trust in traditional currencies has caused money to lose its role as a store of value. Constant money printing, inflation, and centralized decisions have made fiat currencies appear unsafe. In response, individuals turn to assets with limited supply and less government control to protect their labor. Gold, real estate, and digital assets such as cryptocurrencies increasingly replace cash. People now prefer converting money into tangible assets as quickly as possible rather than holding it. As trust in money declines, the financial system becomes less centralized. Money turns into a mere medium of exchange, while real security and wealth are sought in scarce, hard-to-produce, and intervention-resistant assets. This shift clearly shows societies gradually moving away from traditional financial systems. The effects of inflation and uncontrolled money printing are not evenly distributed. The greatest burden typically falls on the middle class, whose savings are held in cash and whose income depends on fixed wages. Wealthy asset holders can protect themselves by investing in inflation-resistant assets such as real estate, stocks, or gold, and may even increase their wealth as asset prices rise. In contrast, middle-class earners face declining purchasing power as wages lag behind real living costs and essential expenses consume most of their income. This imbalance widens the gap between the wealthy and the rest of society. The middle class loses social status and quality of life, while facing rising taxes and eroding purchasing power. Ultimately, the cost of economic crises and poor monetary policies is paid by those with limited access to wealth-preserving tools. One of money's core functions, serving as a store of value, has been undermined by inflation and expanding money supply. Holding cash in a bank or at home now means allowing purchasing power to be silently reclaimed by the system. The economic model discourages saving and instead promotes spending and borrowing. As money loses value every second, consumers are driven by the mindset of, if I don't buy today, I may not afford it tomorrow. This makes long-term financial security increasingly difficult while keeping money constantly circulating within the system. Ultimately, money is no longer a tool for preserving wealth, but merely a medium of exchange. In a system where saving is punished and spending is encouraged, holding money becomes a form of hidden taxation. True value preservation is only possible through assets with limited supply.